title of today's study is Love Gives and Receiving. After showing the spontaneity of love that is the real measure of the life of a believer, in his appeal to Philemon on behalf of his to-be-returned runaway slave, Onesimus, Paul now points to how Philemon will benefit by the return of Onesimus. For perhaps he, Onesimus, therefore departed for a season, that thou, Philemon, shouldest receive him, Onesimus, forever. Not now as a servant, but above a servant, a brother beloved, specially to me, but how much more unto thee, both in the flesh and in the Lord. Philemon 1 verses 15 to 16. Let's break this down. Here, Paul uses a masterful appeal to Philemon as he points out the actual benefit of Onesimus having run away as a slave/servant who was a non-believer and lost, but now returning as something much more. Paul postulates that, for perhaps he therefore departed for a season, that thou shouldest receive him forever. Here, Paul reminded Philemon that his servant was a lost man when he ran away, wherein the benefits to Philemon were purely temporal, e.g., had no eternal significance. But in his return to Philemon as a believer, he would obviously be of far greater value, not to mention this would now be forever, e.g., eternal, not temporal. It should be noted that Onesimus, by running away, was now a criminal in the eyes of the Roman government. So, if Philemon chose to receive him again, the criminal charges would need to be dismissed and forgiven. Let's not diminish Philemon's feelings in this matter, for given how Paul praises Philemon's conduct and contributions, one can only assume that he had been a good master to Onesimus, for which Onesimus repaid him with theft. Finally, Paul points out that Philemon, upon choosing to receive Onesimus back again, would be doing so, not now as a servant, but above a servant, a brother beloved, specially to me. But how much more unto thee, both in the flesh and in the Lord. Don't miss this, as there has been a change in the status of Onesimus forever. He left only as the property of Philemon, yet he would be returning as a brother beloved and, as a result, someone who was above a servant. Further, Paul points out that Onesimus was a brother beloved, specially to me, reminding Philemon of how greatly Paul valued this man. As a result, Philemon should also see that his brother beloved status was of far greater value to him, both in the flesh and in the Lord. Yes, the servant that Philemon was getting back was one of far greater value than he had been when he ran away. But the question that would have to be considered by Philemon was whether he should remain a servant. We will see Paul address that in verses to come. All in all, Paul proposes a masterful valuation of the returning slave, Onesimus, e.g., one with which it would be hard to argue and essentially required that Philemon forgive his thievery and receive him back into this house. Essentially, Paul is showing that Philemon's receiving again the runaway slave Onesimus was a gift of love, not only to Onesimus, but also to Paul and unto the Lord. And thus, in this instance, love gives by receiving. Believer, there are many instances in our day-to-day lives where we too can demonstrate this principle of how love gives by receiving. Look for the opportunities and show the love of Christ.